I have waited 4 years for this engine to grace the tracks of my layout, and to say that I was excited when it arrived is an understatement. So you can imagine my dismay when I installed a decoder, and within minutes, the decoder was bricked. I tried a second time, and the second decoder was bricked. What was going on? Was it a flaw with the locomotive or the decoder? Well, we're going to find out right now. Hello everybody, my name's Jimmy. I'm drinking some just standard store brand coffee, and this is Coffee and Trains.
This video is brought to you by Model Railroad Academy. Model Railroad Academy is your online resource for model railroad instructions, ideas, and information, with loads of tutorials and articles for model railroaders of every skill level.
One of my favorite videos that I've watched recently is making your own homemade ballast, and it's just a really cool tutorial that shows you how to make custom ballast in case you're doing a prototype that doesn't have a commercially available ballast. Plus, you can find tutorials on everything from bench work to electronics to scenery, all sorts of things there. The first 1,000 people to sign up at the link in the description below will get a full year of premium membership to Model Railroad Academy for $1.49. Offer is valid for new members only. If you want to tell me what kind of coffee you are drinking and have it featured just like these guys right here, you can do that in the comments below, and who knows, you might see your name pop up on an episode of Coffee and Trains. Cheers, guys. Now, spoiler alert for the end of this video, I did figure out the issue, and now the engine runs fantastically. This is an Athearn N-Scale F59 PHI in the North Carolina Railroad paint scheme. North Carolina actually has some of the best intercity rail service in the U.S. that you've probably never heard of. The passenger train known as the Piedmont runs 4 round trips per day through the most populous area of the state, stopping in 4 of the 5 most populous cities. Last year, the service carried over 750,000 riders and is looking to increase train frequency and open additional stops between Charlotte, North Carolina and Raleigh, North Carolina. The model is a solid mix of detail and economy. These are not the most expensive models that you'll find. I actually paid less than $150 with tax and shipping for this DCC-ready version. The paint is very sharp, and there are several separately applied details as well as crisp molded details as well. One thing I like that I am seeing more of is speaker cavities in N-scale engines. More locomotives are coming with these cavities, or even a pre-installed speaker. The model takes a drop-in decoder that was originally designed for Kato locomotives. Now this is smart because Athearn doesn't make a ton of N-scale locomotives, so utilizing an existing decoder is a good call for compatibility. For you HO scale guys, a lot of N-scale decoders are sized and cut for certain engines, which makes buying them a bit trickier. We're getting standardized plugs like Next 18 and E24, but hopefully soon this won't be much of an issue. But this decoder is where my problems began. When I use a non-sound decoder, I almost always turn to Digitrax. They're affordable, readily available, and easy to install and pretty reliable. Now, until last summer, I would have installed a Digitrax DN163K1C, which is a drop-in decoder for Kato SD40-2s, but also fits this engine just fine. But in July of 2024, Digitrax released the DN147 series, including the DN147K1C, a replacement for the DN163K1C. The decoder is smaller than the previous decoder, and it also has a soldered-on LED bulb rather than the surface mount LED that's soldered on top of the board in the front. This makes illuminating things like running lights easier. However, this board has a different configuration for some of the solder points and pads, and this is where I ran into trouble. This particular part right here, when installed, slides under one of the contact points for the locomotive's electrified chassis. When this pad makes contact with the body, it creates a short and bricks the decoder. Now, I cannot fault Athearn for this. This decoder literally did not exist when this locomotive was announced, and the previous decoder runs just fine. I know because I pulled one out of another locomotive to check. And I cannot fault Digitrax for this either. This decoder was made primarily for Kato locomotives that will not have this issue based on where you put the decoder on top of the drop-in area. This is just an unfortunate accident that can cause you a headache if it happens to you. I know I got one. It cost me over $100 in non-sound decoders just to get this fixed and right. So how do you fix it? Well, it's actually crazy easy. This is Kapton tape. This tape is super thin and will insulate the component from the chassis. All you have to do is wrap a bit around the affected area. You will not have an issue after that. It also may help to have a bit of Kapton tape on top of the decoder to help press it down a little bit. That's what I ended up having to do. And it makes the connection more solid. You can also do something like soldering it to the chassis as well. And that's it. No more bricking decoders, at least from the short on the chassis. And again, the DN163 will not have this issue. And as far as I can tell just by looking at it, the ESU Loc Sound decoders, they will not have this issue either. It's just the 147 series. Now, while I have not looked at the sound version directly, I have looked at pictures from the SDN 147s, and those do have the same component in the same place. So you may need to do the same thing to the sound decoder as well. Okay. Now that we are up and running, let's take a look at this engine in action. Now, you're going to see the engine hauling some Chicago Metra bi-level coaches, which is not what the North Carolina Railroad has. Right now, it has some older refurbished coaches. It's going to be getting some newer ones because there is a Siemens rail plant in Lexington, North Carolina, which is just smack in the middle of the Piedmont line. But I'm freelancing this part, and I plan to convert these cars to a fantasy North Carolina Railroad scheme. I have seen where these bi-level coaches have been refurbished for other railroads, so it is plausible. But be on the lookout for that tutorial because I think it's going to be a pretty neat one. So, did this locomotive live up to the hype? Well, for me it did, but this is all in my opinion. Every locomotive we purchase is going to be special to us for a different reason. This one represents my home, North Carolina, where I was born and raised, and that is something special to me. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.